In this extension on action, I'd like to try to resolve the problems that we have encountered, or at least offer you an approach which I think will eventually enable us to resolve these problems. Before we do that though, let me try to recap where we've got to here. We've been asking two slightly mad questions. Do spiders have intentions? And when I duck to avoid a flying object, am I acting on any intention? Now, it turns out that there are theoretically coherent ways of characterising intention, on which the answer to both questions is yes. Intention is involved in both cases, the ducking and the spiders. We might, for example, think of an intention as a representation of some future action or pattern of actions, which allows me, for example, to reach a prey following a route, even when information about that route is now no longer available because I've climbed down a pole. There are, though, also theoretically coherent ways of characterising intention on which both answers are no. Some people in my seminar groups actually started thinking about this already. We might, for example, think about intention as essentially involved in temporal coordination of multiple competing actions. And if we did that, then we could plausibly answer no to both questions, since temporal coordination of multiple actions isn't a feature, as far as we know, either of the spiders or of the ducking. But we need to step back here and we need to say, look, why are we asking these apparently mad questions? Mad questions. So you think about, you're sitting around with your family. What were you doing today? What were you doing today? And there's, your cousin studying law and medicine and all the rest of it, engineering. And you have to say, well, I was thinking about whether spiders have intentions. I was thinking about whether spiders have intentions. That's going to look good, isn't it? Well, look, first of all, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this at all? We want to know what's the mark that distinguishes actions from things that merely happen to you. I'm walking to that party in Basingstoke in the dark along the muddy path. I stumble over a log, fall down flat onto my face. That's a mere happening, not an action that I perform. I get up and I kick that log. I kick the log. No matter how irrational that action may be, irrational perhaps, still counts as an action as opposed to something that merely happens to me. Davidson says it's intention that distinguishes actions from things that merely happen to you. And of course we saw that we may be able to cash that idea out also in terms of justifying reasons. That maybe there are two ways of looking at one thing there. Who knows? Maybe. But then we come to the objections, and Frankfurt offers what I'm calling the argument from spiders, and Bach offers objections from absent-minded, instinctive and impulsive actions like ducking under a flying object. The problem, of course, is that we don't know whether those objections are good or bad because we don't really know whether spiders have or lack intentions, whether ducking does or doesn't involve an intention. That's one of the problems. The other side of this is that Frankfurt's own picture, the idea that behaviour under the guidance of an agent is action, that's really what marks action, this sort of guidance, doesn't really provide us with what seems like an obvious alternative, because for once there are just too many holes for us even to have a sense that there might be even an idea here. We don't know what guidance is, and we don't know when guidance is attributable to the agent. As far as Frankfurt goes, we might think about guidance as just a matter of an intention playing a role in the unfolding of the action, and then, there's really no contrast here. There aren't two competing views at all. So things are unknown and underspecified. This is a very difficult situation to be in for us. So what are we going to do here? What are we going to do? We've got theoretically coherent ways of going that will give us one set of answers, theoretically coherent ways of going that will give another set of answers. Now, one thing that we might do here in order to make progress is for me just to tell you about my favourite story, my favourite theory. I could do that. And this is often what philosophers do under the guise of talking about reflective equilibrium. What they really mean, I think, in those cases is they're just telling you the thing that they happen to favour, the thing that seems most appealing to them. But I don't think I should do that here, because I think you'd be very unimpressed if I just pulled out my favourite theory. Sorry? Oh, you're already unimpressed. I think you'd be even more unimpressed if I just pulled out my favourite theory. But why would you be so unimpressed if I just pulled out my favourite theory? More unimpressed than you already are. And I think the answer is that that's not a route to knowledge. That's not a route to knowledge. I have my favourite theory. You have yours. They might be the same. They might be different. We're stuck. We're stuck. We haven't gained any knowledge. We haven't gained any knowledge. Of course, you might have preferences. I might have preferences. But what we want here is a route to knowledge. So we need a different approach One that doesn't require us just trading preferences or guesses or intuitions about our favourite theory. What could that approach be?